on the trail of some of the country's less well-known but most treasured places of worship. This week he uncovers a truly hidden gem in East London.
When you think of any of Britain's religious communities, certain symbols spring to mind. The word Jewish, for example, conjures visions of chicken soup, cheesecake, and of course bagels. But you know what they say? You can never judge a book by its cover. Take this building, classic mid-19th century Victorian Gothic Anglican chapel. Right? Wrong. With its Star of David, its ark, its scrolls of the Torah, this is a synagogue, the Sukkat Shalom Reform Synagogue in Wanstead, East London. Frank Godson was one of the founder members of the Sukkat Shalom Reform Synagogue 25 years ago. Frank, what led to the setting up of this synagogue? Had you ever thought that you might use a Christian building?
Well, it would never have crossed our mind that if one became available that we wouldn't use it. A lot of people didn't like the idea, I have to say. One or two people left the synagogue because of it. One or two people still think it looks a bit churchy. But really and truly, what does a synagogue look like, you know?
Do the bricks and mortar really matter to you?
No, not really. I mean, when we took this building over, there were a lot of Christian artifacts and symbolism in the building, some of which we've had to cover up.
Do you think religious buildings of different denominations have something in common, a spirituality or a dignity to the buildings?
Yeah, I do actually. And I do think a lot of religious buildings do have a kind of feeling about them. A lot of our members come here and they find it quite a nice spiritual place to be.
Thinking about your faith, to what extent is the building in which you practice that faith of great importance?
I don't think, to me, the building is of great importance. I think as a rabbi, I'm a teacher, and that the synagogue as a community is a place where we meet to pray, where we teach the children and the adults, and we negotiate all the community affairs. The building is really a practical necessity. It's primarily a community rather than a place of stone or bricks or mortar.
Do you feel that this building, having been a religious building since its inception, but a Christian building, that somehow you are inheriting some of that holiness and spirituality?
And there's some advantages in moving into a Christian place of worship, simply because it has the right size and scale, and it's oriented in the right direction, to the east, to the Holy Land and Jerusalem.
And so if circumstances forced you to hold your worship in an eastward-facing barn, which had never had a religious context before, that would be, as it were, the same for you?
Certainly it would, because in the history of Judaism, we appreciate buildings for their permanence and their solidity, but tragically in Jewish history, people have built very impressive buildings, and they've lasted 50, 100 years, and then they've been destroyed, and the Jews have moved on. So ours is a very portable faith. And we are all prepared to make our community wherever 10 Jews can gather together, even if it's in the front room of somebody's house.
So it's implicit in what you say that the essential elements to make any building into a synagogue must be quite few and quite portable. What are they?
Well, they are the sacred scrolls. They're the cupboard where you keep the scrolls. It's called an ark. We have above the ark an eternal flame, in Hebrew ner tamid, which keeps the synagogue always illuminated, even at the darkness of night. And I think that's about it.
Now that you're up and running, how would you describe the importance of the building, the synagogue, to the congregants?
Well, you know, it's like most religions, really. People want Judaism when they need it. And, you know, they want to see their children bar and bat mitzvah, so they come and they're involved for that, and then they may disappear. They want to get married, so it has to be here for them. And they want to be buried, and there has to be a synagogue available for them. So all of that is essential in order to get what we call hatch, matched and dispatched, we used to call years ago, was, you know, babies being born, becoming bar mitzvah, then getting married, and then eventually, you know, passing away. And even people who don't go to synagogue, at some stage in their life, they have the need to come.
So people who come to the synagogue at these important moments in their life for the ceremonies, I think you're saying that they actually, if anything, like it better because it was once a chapel.
Yes, I think so. I mean, I think we've turned it into a synagogue. It feels like a synagogue to most of us. It doesn't feel like a chapel. And then at the end of the day, you know, it's a house of prayer, really. You know, Christian, you know, mosque, Christian, Muslim. It's a house of prayer. We all have different symbols that we attach to the building, but at the end of the day, it's somewhere where people can come and pray.
Much though we all admire beautiful places of worship, when a chapel can become a synagogue, it emphasizes that buildings are of only secondary importance. During their history of persecution, the Jews had to sustain their faith when their synagogues had been destroyed. Religions depend on congregations more than bricks and mortar.
And Michael Portillo continues his journey.